All right, so let's talk about confidence, right?
Okay.
For me, confidence look like walking by faith, trusting in God. Even when things didn't seem clear, look clear, and it felt uncertain, my faith really inspired my confidence. So just thinking about it, I think for like some people, confidence may seem like it's loud and boastful at times. Sometimes it's quiet. Like, did any of this shift for you? And what does confidence look like to you? And how has it shaped you?
I think confidence can feel loud and bold. I agree completely with that statement. I just think back to myself. I'm a naturally pretty person, right? In social work, even they talk about pretty privilege, and that's a real thing. But I think that we're taught that too much of something is inappropriate or is boastful or overly confident and things like that. So I said about me naturally pretty, but think about somebody who might be naturally curved. A naturally curved person can't go out and wear the same stuff the same way that somebody without curves can wear and be looked at the same way. That might be looked at as too confident. So for me, with my physical looks, I think not trying to have a loud confidence, I often strayed away from really flashy outfits or really flashy makeup and things like that. I mean, I felt like it would be a loud confidence, but I think that once you do the inner work and realize why that feels loud to you, then you're able to show up in a way that you don't have to minimize yourself when you show up in public, because you have a name for it and you're able to describe it rather than just being a loud confidence. So, but when you can really examine why it is and sit with yourself on, well, is it too much, or is there something in me that feels like people won't receive it well, or they'll judge me, or they'll think I'm maybe better than, or once you deal with what those feelings are, you can be able to walk out in your confidence the way that you see fit. Once you really get over what people think and really listen to what it is that you want, what your desires are, does this make you feel good when you show up like that? Or is this preparing you for where you're trying to get later on in life? Well, continue to show up like that regardless of what other people think. I think that my confidence shifted with experiences.
Okay.
So the more you go through, the more you grow through, you're able to show up in ways that might have felt unfamiliar or uncomfortable in the past. But over time, over situations, being put in uncomfortable positions and having to continuously show up as yourself, when you get out of that uncomfortable position, it's like, oh, I handled that and I showed up in my best self. Oh, I'm definitely going to show up in my best self in the other place. And it becomes a part of yourself. And once you accept that, others can accept it.
So I'm glad that you actually spoke on it, because minimizing yourself and shrinking yourself to fit into smaller circles, is something that too often a lot of us do, including myself, right? So what caused the doubt for you? Like, it just seems like there was some doubt about you showing up in your true self, right? Was it people's perspective? Was it the fear of the outlook? How would they perceive you? How would they look at you? How would they judge you? Was it something that was said to you in the past, or?
I think it was a combination.
Okay.
We carry a lot with us, whether it's stuff that happened to us when we was children, stuff that might have happened to us yesterday, last week, last month. I think it was a lot. I think that first and foremost, the doubt. Speaking candidly, we grow up in a judgmental society, right? Especially school age, and you going through grade school and high school, the peer pressure and things like that. It was a lot of fear of judgment at first, not wanting people to think I think I'm better than, or not wanting people to perceive me as stuck up or things like that. And
well, why would you think that they would?
I think a lot of how we show up culturally has influenced the way people perceive people if they dress nice, or if they talk nice, or if they're not smiling all the time. There's a lot of misconceptions that are pushed on us culturally. And I think I was very sensitive to those. And because I was so sensitive to the way people perceive you, if you dress real nice, or if you talk real nice, even, and things like that, and the judgment that comes along with it, because I was so sensitive to that, I just never wanted to be perceived that way. So because of my heightened sensitivity, I always moved opposite of that, rather than pushing through those misconceptions to show up as my true self. I think what changed it for me was growing into adulthood and several things happening over my adult life. Most importantly, the birth of my daughter. So for me, after I had my daughter, I want to say my confidence, I worked on it a lot, and it grew after I had my daughter. So raising a daughter, we want to encourage them to be all that they can be and strive for whatever their dreams are and go after it. You can do it. You just got to work. And as a young mom, I'm now telling her these things and trying to encourage her and motivate her in things. And it's causing me to look back on my life. And if I moved towards whatever I wanted, or I strived to be whatever I wanted to be, and I had to do the inner work at that point, because if I'm going to raise a fearless, confident little girl, I have to check my own fearlessness and my confidence and make sure it's at the level that is going to be an example to her. So I want to say there was a true shift in my confidence after I had my little girl. Strong women raise strong women, and I had to look at myself and make sure I was strong and do the work to continue to be strong so that I could raise her to grow up and be strong as well.
Absolutely. For me, I was always confident. But I remember when you were saying you don't know where you're going to be at in certain rooms and certain tables you're going to, have to sit at, and how you're going to show up, right? I remember when we first met, what did I say? I said, listen,
I'm preparing.
I'm a dresser. I'm preparing. I don't know where I'm going to walk into, what room or wherever I'm going to go. But I'm going to make sure I'm ready so I won't have to be ready, right? But I also say that was my disclaimer. Because, like you said, just automatically just being pretty and dressing nice, and, it's such a stigma. And I've had people look at me in such a way like, oh, well, who
she thinks she is?
Right? So for me, I don't want to come into someone else's space and have them looking at me in the same manner or in the same way. Like, I know I have a strong personality. I've sat at many tables, right, and entered and walked in many rooms. I've been in leadership, had those roles, right? So for me, my role as a student, my role as an intern, I don't want it to be overshadowed by appearance. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to pose barriers or challenges with being judged.
I got you.
Right? When I want to dress nice, when I want to throw it on. And I still want to be looked at, my purpose and my role within the organization, within the establishment, not feeling like, oh, well, who's she trying to be? The CFO? The CEO? The executive? You understand?
Not here, but maybe.
Exactly.
Not here, but maybe.
So if I can be completely honest, that was my disclaimer.
I
It's like,
appreciate that.
yeah.
And you know what? When you said that to me, that took me back to my freshman year in college, freshman seminar. And I remember my mentors, my advisors, and that was one of the most profound pieces of advice. I mean, they gave us a lot of advice, but one of the most profound pieces of advice they gave us is dress for where you want to be
Yes.
today.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So for me showing up, it was like, look, this is how I'm respectful. This is how I'm coming. Take me as I am, and I hope we don't have any type of conflict along the way. Mm-hmm. But I want to show up for myself, not the organization. And it's like I'm becoming and I'm walking into my role and my profession, that I aspire to become one day.
Absolutely.
So I didn't want to minimize. I didn't want to shrink myself to belong or to feel like I'm fit, to fit in it or to feel like I'm belonging. So
a couple things come to mind. I think back to your disclaimer. I remember that was the first time we met, and that was your disclaimer. And I'm just wondering what that would have been perceived like if I hadn't done work in myself and addressed any insecurities, doubt, shame, fear. Would that have been received the same way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is why so many people take on that fear of being overconfident early on until they can address why, what, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling like this? Why do I believe that? Because I was able to accept it. It wasn't intimidating. It wasn't, it didn't rub me any wrong ways or anything like that. And I think a strong woman, if anything, it pulls another strong woman up to say, sis, we have to show up with our best face forward every single time.
Yeah.
And I think we all know why Black women have to show up with their best face every single time. That's another podcast for you. We could go on. But sometimes we need those reminders. Sometimes we need those reminders. And even still, I'm thinking back to seize in the moment. We save an outfit. We save up, waiting for the special occasion. We're always waiting for the special occasion. This is the special occasion. It might look small or it might start small, but you got to show up.
Absolutely.
For what you want it to be so that it can continue to grow in that. If you're going to stay playing small, it might stay small.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It might stay small. I'm just thinking back to the tonight's conversation that I went to and saw Dr. Bryant and Ayanla and all of them.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I'm just thinking it's translating for me. It's translating in a way that says you can do that, or you're doing this. It might not look like a big convention center sold out right now, but you have a book that's you go ahead and edit and be ready for publishing, and you have a message and an audience that you can cater to with the recent programming that I've been building and things like that. For me, it just screams like seize the moment. Even showing up here today, being excited to have an opportunity to talk with you and get this information out on your platform and things like that. I don't take it for granted, because I think that we wait for a special occasion or the right occasion, not knowing that God has given us this occasion and we got to seize it. And if we put our all and our best in it, we watering that thing. And that's the only way it's going to grow. If you're not putting your best in it, you might just be throwing a little bit of water on it.
Absolutely.
Not really watering it and giving it the sunlight and, the nurturing and things like that it needs to grow and be a strong and fruitful plant. But just enough to make sure it spreads a little leaf, so showing up every day for your best life, your best self, We might not be on a platform with millions watching us
Not
today,
yet. Not yet. Absolutely.
but you show up as your best self, because
Yes.
when you look back on it, you'll be able to say, I've been doing this. And even before I was doing it for hundreds of y'all, I was doing it in hopes that it would help hundreds of y'all. So it's preparing.
Absolutely.
It's preparing.
Absolutely. And like for me, that disclaimer, before the disclaimer, it was a subtle reminder, because I know I needed to show up in my best version. And I know that oftentimes I can scale back when I'm comfortable, right? You know?
Yes.
So
Me. That was me in the office. I was comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So before coming over there to you, when I was at the other location, right? They're like, oh, I want to be like Miss T when I get older. I want to have this on. I want to do this. I want to do. And then eventually, I got comfortable. So I really didn't show up, and I don't think in the role. And I can't be critical of myself. And I feel so that they say you are your worst critic, but again, it's being aware,
right?
And holding yourself to a higher standard.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? So for me, I knew what I intended to show up as, what the message that I was trying to convey to these young girls as well. It's not even always about showing up for others, or how can I say it? I'm trying to put it in such a way, because oftentimes it's about self too, when you take accountability and you take assessment on your own individual need. So I definitely had to make sure that I stayed disciplined.
Wow. I'm thinking back to those girls at the residential facility and showing up in a way that shows I care about the way I appear. I care about
and then
how
it encourages them as well.
Absolutely does.
Like
it absolutely
you aspire to be someone who you don't even know have overcame barriers, who've overcome adversity,
exactly,
who've overcome trauma,
exactly,
who's relatable, like who came from some of the places that you are trying to overcome now. So I've made it. I've done this. I look like this. I can have this. You can too. Who says you can't?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So helping them, minimize reducing themselves. Yeah.
And show up.
Like
and show up. You don't have to look like what you've been through.
Exactly.
Here are some other options. Here are some other options, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It helped. I think it helped you to connect with them, to break down any barriers or boundaries or walls, that they've built up from their heart histories and things like that, traumas, abandonment and whatever other challenges they might have come with. And it gives them hope.
Absolutely.
It gives them hope.
Yeah. We are somehow taught to shrink ourselves and reduce ourselves. When I went around certain people, so certain environments, it was, well, who do she think she is? And yeah, I do. I think I'm exactly who I think I am. Honestly, I do. So that mindset and that stigma, it's so disheartening, because we really shrink ourselves and reduce showing up in our authentic self. I can be at a regular function and I hear people like, oh my God, we thought that you was a celebrity. I didn't even recognize you. And for me, it's like, I just felt like I'm just getting dressed. And for them, it's like, oh no, you look like that girl. You look like that one. But when I'm around other people that's not getting complimented, that I think may feel a certain way, I won't actually allow the compliments to like sink in and elevate my mood or my mind or you understand what I'm saying? Or my spirit. I don't allow it to fill me up. I just like minimize it. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you. I really do.
I think confidence and who you think you are plays a lot of in it. So for me, I got You go to work day in, day
Yeah.
out. I'm tired of waking up, tired of picking the outfit, tired of getting dressed.
Yeah.
So you fall into a cycle, a comfortable cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes true intentions to break you out of that cycle. Okay, I'm too tired to figure out what I want to wear every day. I need to start thinking about it in the evening. You know, it takes intention. You have to look at that situation and think intentionally on how you can overcome, solve those problems, what solutions might be available, and then use those. But I think also that confidence, that who do you think you are, and that process stops a lot of us from showing up for our best self. Who do you think you are? If you think about somebody that's dealing with trauma, that's dealing with doubt, hurt from their mom, their dad, abandonment, and things like that, who do I think I am? Nothing. Less than. Not worth it. So how can I possibly show up as anything else?
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity for social workers right there.
Yeah.
How can we take their feelings that have been developed over years and years and years and show them that there's other options, that there's other perspectives that they can take on, that they can set their own standards of who they are rather than let their past define them and give them a label and things like that. And I think it goes back to that inner work. You know, you have to do the work to be able to show up as your best self. And it might not be your best self, fullest potential, but it might be the best self that you have that day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or the best self that you have in that moment.
Absolutely.
So
that's true. That's so true. So at this point in your life, what's no longer negotiable for you?
Oh my. What is no longer negotiable? You said it earlier, putting myself first.
I know that's right.
It's no longer negotiable. That looks like what I need at my home, whether it has to do with my partner and my child, what I need in the work environment, what I need socially as a mom. You know, we feel obligated to be at home with the kid all the time, don't take time to be away from the house and pouring back into ourselves and things like that. I think for me, that's been non-negotiable. Even up to the point of this podcast and agreeing to do the podcast, I agreed to do it and made plans for my daughter and, you know, things like that later because it was non-negotiable for me. I appreciate you. Yeah. And I think for me, prioritizing what I need, whether it be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, socially, intimately, and being able to communicate that has been non-negotiable for me in this season.
Awesome. Good for you.
It's taking some time. It's taking some time to navigate that as a new mom. You know, I say new mom, but my daughter is 5, and that's still very new to me. I don't think it ever becomes old. Honestly, parenting, I feel like it doesn't ever become old.
It's lifelong.
Because as the child grows, you're growing, you're at a different stage. Things with you have changed the same way they changed with the child. So it's like as soon as I master one level, we'd have moved on to the next level, and this new things.
So if that comes in the form of always giving advice, right? Because you always want to see the best for them.
Yes.
So you're always going to advise them, right? Whether it's about relationships, whether it's just about showing up for themselves, taking care of themselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Let's talk about your finances, helping them out financially. So you're always going to be there. So I think parenting is lifelong. Me personally.
I would agree. Yeah. I would agree. And I had to learn how to organize that area of my life in a way that I was still available to give those teachings, but I was able to make sure that I'm whole and where I need to be, because that's when I give the best teachings.
Yeah.
So, like the airplane said, I had to learn how to put on my life mask before I continued to put on hers. And every day, you know, as a new mom, it was constantly putting on hers, putting on hers. And then over time, you realize, oh, this is not necessarily how I want it to be in my life, or this is not necessarily what I want it to look like in my life. And so I confronted that, and that's honestly a non-negotiable right now. Pouring into others more than I pour into myself, non-negotiable.
I know that's right.
Given time where I don't want to or don't see the value in it anymore, non-negotiable. Not spending time growing my spirituality and my faith, non-negotiable.
That part.
So I think that's something that's non-negotiable in this stage of my life, is putting myself first. It doesn't necessarily mean to negate the needs of others. It just means making sure that all of my needs are met first. Absolutely. So that I can better meet the needs of others. Because when I am able to have my quiet moments to myself or do things that I enjoy, I come back happier, I come back lighter, I come back less easily frustrated, and and it just makes for a better environment for all of us.
Absolutely. You need to prioritize your needs and
absolutely
compartmentalize your priorities. So completely agreed. So you just transitioned out of a very demanding season, right? Is there anything that you miss about that version of you?
So I recently completed my last course for my Master of Social Work program. And I think one of the things, if anything, I miss in that season is the structure. I felt it to be completely applicable to what I'm doing currently in my professional and, my personal business goals and things like that. But definitely the structure, the outline, the framework, absolutely, right? To be able to apply it to what I'm doing professionally or what I'm building personally.
I can see that. My last assignment was like a 24-page paper that I had to submit, right? And with the hustle, the bustle, the grind, the grit, and the structure, coming out of that semester, coming out of that season, I felt out of place, right? Short-lived, but out of place, because every week for 16 weeks.
Yep.
And then it was even, the workload was even much heavier the last 8 weeks. It was consistent. It was heavy, right? It was structured. And I really had to be disciplined. So coming out of that, it felt strange. I didn't have anything to do. I could relax.
Right.
I can take a moment for myself. That was a little different. And I'm surprised coming from me, because I enjoy relaxing. I enjoy showing up for myself. I enjoy my quiet time and my space and moving and coming and going as I choose.
Right.
So it hit a little different. And I'm like, okay, I'm in this season of performing. I like that. I like that. Because we can take time. I know I take time. I enjoy taking time. I take as much time as I need. I take as much time as I need. And this last time, I'm like, Lord, all right, well, maybe I'm taking too much time. Maybe rest is over. Tell me what's next. But yeah, so I can definitely relate to just not having that structure. And that was just a short period of time.
Gotcha.
And now I'm going to my last semester. I'd rather rest a little bit longer.
Oh, you better enjoy these next couple of days.
I know. So, what do people see in you that you sometimes overlook?
I think my strengths, right? I could run down a list of strengths that come natural to me. But because I do them so naturally or without thinking, or it's just a second reaction to me to behave or respond in that way, I think a lot of times I overlook some of my strengths in myself, like being a hard worker, like being dedicated, like being a leader and able to get it done and, execute what's being asked of you rather than not successfully executed, whether it being distracted or doubtful or just unsure and not knowing where to start. I think I've always been a self-starter. I've always been resilient. So I think I do those things in an everyday manner. I'm going into work even when nobody is looking, doing what I need to do. Finding a way to make it happen even when I don't have the resources to make it happen and things like that. And those are the things that I sometimes can overlook for myself. And so when I get praises, almost like a thank you, but I'm supposed to do that, or thank you, but I always do that, or that's who I am. But just because that's who I am doesn't necessarily mean that I can't and shouldn't still give honor to that part of me. So I think for me, that would be one of the biggest things that I overlook.
Okay. Gotcha.
Some of my strengths for sure.
Okay. What would it look like to trust yourself without a plan?
What would it look like to trust myself without a plan? For me, that would look like unlimited confidence, because if you don't have a plan, you're just going off of a whim, going off of feelings, going off of something in you, right? Because you don't have a plan, so you're just moving. I think that high level of confidence is what it would take to move without a plan.
What about we're both spiritual, unwavering faith? What about that level of faith though? Because walk by faith, not by sight. We can plan our steps all we want, but the outcome.
I think you just said it. It's a walk. It's a faith walk. You walk that thing out step by step, day by day, doing what you feel called to do or what God is leading you to do. It's not a leap. It's not staying stagnant or still. You have to be moving. But I think that if you move, God will guide you. But if you don't move, God can't necessarily guide you. Even without a plan, if you're moving, the plan can come. And I'm so glad that you asked that follow-up question, because a lot of time planning is just a secret word for procrastination.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm planning this, or it's in the works, and it becomes an excuse. It was an excuse for me to procrastinate and to not put something out, whether it was a lack of confidence or whether it was lack of preparation and things like that. But I think we can spend years planning and something still not work out the way we planned it to work. So I'm not saying jump into something blindly, right? We say walk this thing out by faith.
What? Blind faith? I do believe in blind faith.
My faith sees, and sees based on God's promises. So it's not necessarily blind for me. Because the Bible speaks on how you can do all things by Christ, and you know what the potential is and things like that. So it's not necessarily blind faith for me. Because you still calculate it, you still moving smart, or moving in a direction that you feel called to, whether you moving with the full plan, the full scope, the full policies and procedures of reach or not, you still moving. I think blind faith would be showing up and not knowing nothing about what you're doing, but just knowing you're gonna do something. What I hear is you knew God's promises, and you knew that He had a promise for you on the other side of that.
Yeah. So Porsha, thank you so much for being on the show. I really did appreciate the time that you gave, and also just wanting to show up and be present in this moment. I do appreciate that. So before we go, I have one last question to ask. What do you hope that our listeners take away from this conversation that we had?
We talked a lot about confidence. We talked a lot about who you are and knowing and believing who you are and trusting God while you're trusting yourself. And that's what I would want them to take away. life is going to continue to move. It's going to continue to life. It's not going to be all good days. God willing, it won't be all bad days either. But now is your moment to show up and to make the strides to get where you want to be. I hope that our listeners can take a moment to reflect on who they are today and who or what it is they want to be, and work on developing a clear path towards that. Just season the moment and the resources that you have, because if you're a good steward of what you have right now, then God can give you more. So I think that would be my one thing that I hope everybody would take away.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.